Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. Brother Don Pierson here in Don Counts, and we're at the Stewart's home, and beautiful place, a good place on this beautiful afternoon. This is Saturday morning's devotion. Saturday's devotion, and we're in James chapter 1, and I'm going to read verses 22 through 25, and I've got a question for you. Which mirror are you looking in? Which mirror are you looking in? Verse 22, Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself. He goes away, and he immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in what he does. Well, several things come out of this text to me that caught my attention. The whole idea of seeing or knowing, actually it's more than seeing, it's the idea of knowing and then forgetting. It's the idea of being a hearer and a doer, or just a hearer and not a doer. But it's interesting that here there is a transition. You see in verse 22, he's a doer of the word. In verse 25, he's a doer of the work. Interesting transition. Well, all of that I hopefully will come out in what I want to share about which mirror are you looking in. Now, I know I'm pretty vain. There's an old song that I think was sung in the 70s or 80s. Oh, so vain. I'm not a good singer, so don't expect me to give it to you. But there are times, and I bet you do the same thing. There are times when I look in the mirror in the morning after I've gotten my shower and all ready, and I go, whoa! Yeah, I know. You don't think I do that. You ask Trish. There are times when I say, man, I look pretty good today. Then there are other times when I look in the mirror and I say, man, what happened to the old you? What happened to the young you? What happened to the one that didn't have wrinkles and gray hair? And, well, you know, time does that. I think sometimes people are, instead of looking in a mirror, are actually looking at a picture of themselves, of a time or a moment in history that they like. My wife has a few of those of me. Be honest with you, I don't look at them, but I do have a few of those of Trish, and I do look at those pictures. I think some people, when they look in the mirror, they don't see who they are. They're actually looking at a picture of who they used to be. Or maybe it's a picture of what they want to be. Either one of those are insufficient, by the way. I think that most of the time we're like the guy. Now understand, his audience is an audience of Christians. An audience of Christians. And this comes so early in chapter 1, it lets us know that, or early in this book, it lets us know that evidently this was a problem for them. They were looking in the mirror, seeing what God, their natural self, knowing fully well who they are, but then forgetting and thinking more of themselves. That's important as we move on into this chapter and into chapter 2. It's very obvious that they think more of themselves than they ought. They looked in the mirror. They know who they really are. They know their natural self. They know the real Don. But they forget. And they end up thinking more of themselves. I guess some of us, and I say us, we need to carry a mirror around more often. Not for vanity purposes, just to remind us who we really are. I think we need a mirror of the Word, a mirror of the Word or the law of liberty. I really need constantly to be able to see what God sees when He looks at me. Now, when God looks at me, the amazing thing, He sees two things. He sees what I am, but He also sees what He has done. I guess one of the other types of mirrors that I would like to have more often would be also a picture. It's not a picture of me. It's probably a picture of Christ. Because I really do hope that when God looks at me, He sees more of His Son than me. That would be delightful. But you see, when I forget Christ and His work for me, then it's more the spots and wrinkles, the gray hair and the blemishes, my ugliness that He sees. Which mirror are you using? Take a good look at yourself. Take a good look into God's Word. He's done a great work in us Christians, but sometimes we can talk about it, but we don't live it. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.